Welcome to the podcast where we talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. This is Isaac.
This is Megan.
And on this bonus episode, we decided to do another Paranormal Roundtable with some good friends of ours. I'd like to bring in Mike Gale from Spiritual Services and Mike and Christie from Unknown Paranormal.
How's it going, everybody?
Hello.
This roundtable we've been trying to do for since early this year. Because the subject matter is something that I wanted all of us to talk about. Because out of most people that I know, we deal with demonic entities almost on a daily basis, from the cases that me and Mike from Unknown Paranormal do, and of course Mike G from Spiritual Services does on his own accord with house clearing and stuff like that. So we all have our own, and of course everyone knows me and Megan's story when it comes to dealing with dark entities. So I thought it'd be a good subject matter to talk about today. So today's topic, essentially, that I want us to discuss about and give our experiences and opinions on is spiritual warfare and humanity's place in it. And that is a subject that I always thought of, like, why are we involved? But, what is our major place in this war that seems to be going on between good and evil spirits out there? So just for people reference-wise, Mike G, you want to tell a little bit about you and what you do?
So I've been kind of more involved in dark energy, I'd say, in the last 4 years. And I think that's kind of come around due to my own traumas that I've had to go through. I've obviously been a medium since I was very little, I guess, and I've always been able to communicate with spirits and stuff. But along my journey, I've kind of been involved with angels a lot in the last 4 to 5 years, and that's kind of progressed me into dark energy removal and being able to deal with trauma demons in particular. So there's been a lot of house clearing and dealing with children that have trauma demons and all that kind of stuff. So there's been a lot of work towards that in the last sort of 4 years.
Trauma demons. That's a new reference I've ever heard before. What do you mean by trauma demons?
So trauma demons are it's kind of like a word that I kind of invented, I guess, and it's going to people that deal with trauma, that have got their own traumas, and I've kind of found that we have the ability to manifest demons that we go through trauma, whether that be through relationships or parenting problems, all that kind of stuff. And as humans, we have to be able to blame something. It has to be a physical thing. So with all this trauma that we internalize, it has to become external. Does that make sense? So this being of energy that we create is almost like a low level demon that watches us. It learns our triggers. It learns our innermost, the things that really we don't want to deal with, and it makes us vulnerable, I guess, and then they use that against you.
I always find that the trauma energy, or even people traumatic experiences in life, that always gets buried in the mind forest. Hence why I always clear out mind forest and stuff like that. But if you're finding the external excuse of it and pushing that away, removing it and stuff like that, that's interesting. I always deal with shit that's on the outside, dealing with the entities that are in the room actually, causing stuff like that. And occasionally people ask me to remove stuff from their head, from their mind forest. Yeah. And I find, I don't know if you ever experience this, but I find that, not intentionally, I don't mean to do this, but sometimes when I pull the dark energy from people's mind forest, pull it out of their head, clear it out, they are healed from some kind of ailment. That's not my intention. I don't mean to do that, but sometimes like something goes away that they had a problem with, that I was like, oh, so that negative energy was attached to that physical ailment, which caused it. When I removed it altogether.
Yeah, correct. So that is, it's almost like it's almost like a placebo effect. So you pull that away, but then you're also pulling away the thing that has, like, it's almost like got a little bit of leverage. Does that make sense? So that you kind of, it's one thing, but then as you pull it, you're pulling out something else, and it's all kind of linked. So a lot of things that are psychological also becomes something that you are physically affected with too.
Yeah. And my other partner in crime, who I've been working with for a long time, the Unknown Paranormal, Mike and Christie. For those who don't know, and probably I don't know why would this be the first time listening to one of the podcasts that you're on, but you want to tell a little bit about what you guys do?
Well, we've been around for 6 years now, and we're paranormal investigators, which means that we're out there to prove paranormal activity. If there's any way that we can catch ghosts or spirits, that's always a plus. But during our 6 years, we have partnered up with Isaac and Megan, and we have been dealing or have dealt with 24 home cases. 24 home cases where we haven't yet walked into a home and been like, oh, it's just neutral spiritual activity. There's always an oppression. There's always a shadow. There's always something, which is why this roundtable to me is actually going to be pretty cool to hear the feedback and how things can tie to spiritual warfare and why we're involved.
Yeah. I just want to note that both Christy and Megan have the same hair right now.
Yup. It's Sunday. It's reset Sunday. We're resetting.
I agree.
Yeah.
Comfy Sunday.
Yeah.
So I actually thought of some questions specifically for this episode last night. So there's a question that I wanted to ask that kind of talks about the role of fear when it comes to spiritual warfare and using abilities and even being a paranormal investigator and dealing with maybe more so on the darker side of entities. But the question is, how does fear play a role in spiritual warfare, and how can we balance fear with faith and understanding?
I think fear is a mindset. I mean, being a ghost hunter, being a paranormal investigator, doing what we all do, no matter what, when we walk into a location for a first time, we got to have our minds open and clear. And it's up to us to delegate and figure out what exactly it is that we're coming across. So if you walk into someone's house with just automatic fear, you're going to face fear instantly. But until you knock out the X's and O's and figure out exactly who's there standing beside you or who's hiding in the corner, that's all to do with your mindset and how you're going to react to what's your next move. How are we going to take control of this?
I mean, I think for me it's slightly different because I'm going to a place where fear has played a massive part of it. So, you know, for me, like going to houses which have got children in it and they've been dealing with, you know, these dark energies that have used fear so much leading up to me going, I think fear is massive because it feeds dark energy. It's a bit like ego based. So fear is part of the ego, and you know, you're going into an environment where majority of it is children. They are feeding dark energy based on fear. So I think fear is the opposite to love. So love is a massive energy, and we're able to vibrationally get a lot of stuff out of it by using love as an energy. So you're the opposite end of that using fear because it's still giving energy, but it's a lower vibration. So you're getting lower, darker energies coming from that. Whereas where you lose unconditional love and love vibration, you're getting higher energy. So I think, you know, if you're going into an environment to get rid of dark energy, be prepared to have a lot of fear-based vibration in there. So I agree with what Mike just said. Really, it's a lot of it is coming from try and work out the mindset that you need to go into what you're doing.
In all my time was literally speaking to these entities and interrogating them and figuring out why they were there, why they were oppressing someone, why they were after that specific person for a specific reason. Fear and angst and all our negative emotions is always the one that they want the most. The more that you're afraid, the more negative emotions you feed, it's a drug to them. They love it. They want more. And the more longer they oppress someone, the more they can oppress the people around them and start making more anger, more fear, more things by scaring them, by creating that. And that's what I know they feed on. What they love more than anything is the negative emotions that we emit. It's like the top drug for them when it comes to that. And every single demon, every single dark entity, every single one that I've had to, time to interrogate and talk to, they always give me that same answer when it comes to fear specifically. But as for me going into an investigation and stuff like that, you can't have it. You can't have fear going in there. Well, I don't have it that much anymore because I carry an ability that stops them from even getting close. But I have been injured before. I've had to learn from my lessons. So I'm not, 100% impenetrable when it comes to that. I've been pushed and had it fell down a hill that tore my right tricep and put me on the shelf for like a couple of weeks, where this ability was kind of on the shelf. So you learn from your mistakes when dealing with dark entities, but awareness into the investigation, that's something that I always apply now. Keep your head on a swivel because they can come at any time in any direction, especially if you're really pissing them off. And because of that, I had to upgrade my protection that I have on myself. And that's the number one thing I always tell everyone. Make sure you got damn protection of anything you have when you go into places, especially dangerous ones.
And I think too, a lot of these negative entities like to, I'm going to play on our podcast name here, like hide in the shadows. And the more and more like you see them and you put basically a light on them to determine like what they're doing, how they're causing the fear, all of that stuff kind of plays like weakens them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you, Mike from Unknown Paranormal, he'll tell you, like in my lives, I talk about it a lot. I talk about like the demons that are in the shadows. They watch you from the shadows, and it just kind of validates what you said. Like they will stay away from the light because they don't want to. They don't want it. They want to be in the dark. They use the shadow as fear. They're using that. It goes back to that, that childhood part of you where you were always told about the thing under the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Like hiding in the shadow. So it's kind of ingrained into us as a young child that there's always something creepy in the shadow.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So another question, the evolution of beliefs. How has your beliefs about spiritual warfare evolved over time, and what experiences or insights have shaped this evolution?
I mean, I'll jump in straight away there.
Okay.
I think for me, my belief has really grown massively in the last 4 years. And I mean, obviously with your help when I went through my bit of trauma that I had and that demon that was in my cabin, I think after that, and then obviously working with angels and having to do a lot of meditation and, finding my angels and getting that intimate relationship with them, I think that's massively changed me as a person. I trying to have involvement within spiritual warfare, and I guess I never even knew what that term meant when 5 years ago when I started doing this. I think we kind of go through things, and I think it's down to exposure too. Like the more you do it and the more you meditate and the more you work with your angels and guides, I think you get more, I don't know what the right term is, but you kind of just deal with stuff more. Like when you're going out on an investigation, Mike, like, do you find that because you've been doing it so long now, it just becomes second nature?
It becomes very natural.
Yeah.
But, being said, it's almost like my investigations have turned into a constant fight, a battle, right? Where we go in and the team kind of branches off and everyone's doing the kind of their own thing. Where with me is I want to eliminate the darkness so that others can come forward towards the light and be able to talk to the ones that they trust, which is us. So just going straight to the point and eliminating what we can in order to get proper answers instead of kind of digging through the bush for it. That's kind of where I've been leading. I don't know if Christie wants to add something.
I think faith in yourself is quite important because I think it's like when you're going through this and you start to learn to have like gifts with like guides and angels. Like, I don't know if anybody else deals with this, but sometimes I really think is this actually me that needs to go and see somebody to be locked away, or is it actually happening? Like, that's the biggest thing that I struggled with. Like, having faith in myself, having faith in my angels around me, and I've been to some pretty crazy places that really kind of tested my faith in the universe and my angels and guides, because without them around me, I don't think I would have done it, because it was quite intense.
So faith in your own ability that you're actually doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And 100% faith in your ability is what you need in order to complete what you're supposed to be doing with your life. Like this ability of mine, unknown to anyone. And there's no one in the world who's like me specifically. I have other people, like, of course, Mike G and a few others that I've met who have what we call EMAs, energy manipulation abilities, able to project positive energy, to move, to push out, and stuff like that, or create some kind of like, positive energy nuke out of themselves or stuff like that, and then or just basically project and push stuff back. But me specifically, no, that's something that I had to struggle with in the beginning. Am I actually doing what I'm doing? But then I'm getting, of course, confirmation from people I've helped, and hearing their you took it away, I'm in a better place, and seeing the effects that it has on certain people. Like literally within days, you'll first meet these people, and they're like in like terrible. They look tired. They look like they're worn. They look beat down. They have like they're in terrible shape. I go in 30 minutes later, take everything out, and then literally talk to them in the next couple of days, and they're fine. Like it never happened. I was like, oh shit, so I am doing what I'm doing. And then the more cases, because I'm up to 40, 45?
I think so.
45 home cases that I've done with just me and Megan. Of course, 24 of those were with Mike from Unknown Paranormal. And just over again, seeing it, and people just reporting back and like, oh, we're in a good place now, thank you, and stuff like that. So it's consistent confirmation that helps fuel the faith in yourself with your own abilities that you're actually completing the task. And of course, I have seen and talked to things that would give people nightmares beyond anything like that, and wondering to yourself, am I insane? Is this real dealing with and stuff like that? Those questions always pop up. And if you're a well-sounded mind person, you've always had those thoughts. Is this real? Am I actually doing this stuff? Is this real life going on? And then you see something and you hear something and you deal with something and you get confirmations. I think that's what helps fuel the faith and the ability of what we're doing is confirmation and actual proof of people's personal experiences of how you help them. At least that's what it's always been for me. And that's the kind of motivation that keeps me wanting to do this over and over again and stay in this war, essentially.
Yeah.
Facts. I agree with everybody.
No, I was going to say next.
Okay, so next question is, balancing the physical and the spiritual. How do you integrate your understanding of spiritual warfare into your daily life, especially in a world that often prioritizes material concerns?
Balancing this?
Yeah. Like how do you balance essentially spirit life versus like your physical life?
I think it's the same kind of idea of being able to turn on and off your ability. Like, if you're out and about and you're running your everyday Monday to Friday errands type thing or weekend errands, that's kind of your focus. So mentally, I don't see like you being on track at 110% to be able to worry about a warfare, right? But as soon as you're done and you're focused on something or you're tuning into the other side and you can adjust to what's happening around you, that's when the battle's begun, right? And being who we are and what we're out there doing, it's just natural for us to start blasting. You know what I mean? Like we're fighting back. And I think along the road, the longer that we keep doing this, it will become more natural, a lot more quicker. But again, everything has a place. It's just like, back in the day when battles were taking place, the start of the fight might be guys on horsebacks with bow and arrows or guns. And then the guys behind them might be on foot with axes and swords. Like there's a position for everybody. And where we stand in that position is where we have to fall to in order to just keep pushing forward and continuing to demolish and to keep winning.
I mean, for me, I do it every day anyway, so it becomes part of my everyday routine.
Yeah.
So I'm either doing lives or workshops or something. So for me, it's part of my normal day. But I think for me, I would say the biggest thing that you have to do is be disciplined about your protection. You have to be disciplined with your gift, and meditate a lot. I think that's my biggest thing, because when I don't meditate or I don't connect with my guides, I definitely notice the difference. I struggle a lot more. I struggle being able to communicate and help people if I haven't, connected. So I would say for me, the biggest thing is definitely discipline within your energy, what you can and can't let in and let out, and definitely have connection with meditation and where you go.
In the beginning of doing all this stuff, it was difficult to have a normal life, and then because I can't turn this off. It was difficult to have a normal life with dealing with this stuff, and then like you feel something dark right fucking next to you, and you're talking to somebody that doesn't know you can do what you do, and you're just like secretly putting your hand out below, making sure they don't look down and pull, and then of course, what'd you say? Oh, that's it.
I have to tell him this time at like grocery stores. Like he'll be like, we were just at a grocery store and we were in the aisle, and he starts pulling, and because I mean,
no one was around.
But I was like, Isaac, and you see him like pull into the ring, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's people around.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, well, that's
But why would it even matter? Like, I mean, we live in a day today that there's worse things than people pulling out their hand and saying into the ring, right? Most people would just walk by you. I
well,
think
you say that, but being a store manager, you can imagine me walking down the aisle going, "Oh, hello, la la la," and there's people looking at me like, "Who the hell are you talking to?" Like, I was working with
it
my
opens
boss.
a conversation to
Yeah.
listen. You
Yeah,
know how
you
many
need
times
meds.
I've been
Yeah.
at work or something, and I'd say something, and my manager is like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, don't worry. And then it leads to a conversation. You're kind of bringing more people into this kind of world, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it never stops now, because I did a reading for my boss in the middle of the warehouse. And every time I see him now, he goes, "Have I got somebody around me?" Or is like, "What's going on today?" Because of that. And that's, I think, yeah, you're right. It's a really good conversation starter until you start giving people stuff and they're like, "I don't want to do this today." Like,
Yeah.
so,
I mean, you
yeah,
would still have to set your boundaries. Like once you start reeling people in, I guess, right? If you're going about your everyday and such as you or Isaac, Isaac's holding up his hand saying into the ring. I mean, people are going to be like, "What ring? What's going on?" Or you're saying hello. It's like, well, actually, this is a whole other world you may have not known of, right?
yeah. I mean, it's one of those spiritual laws, though, isn't it? It's very much like, you don't give stuff unless people have asked for it, because you don't. Poor Betty walking down the street, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, your granddad's with you," and she's like, "What?" It's like earlier when we were waiting for you lot to come in. I'm like, "Oh, there's a Victorian lady behind you." Like it's weird.
Well, with us people who are involved in the paranormal, it's nothing weird to us. And that's just something that becomes normal over time because we're so involved in it. But now our house is extremely well protected. I don't have to deal with anything dark on a daily basis. If someone who doesn't know what me and Megan can do comes to the house, they'll be fine. They'll feel the energy change from the second they step on the property, because like, oh, this place is kind of nice. I feel real nice in here. The vibe's nice and stuff like that. But normal day to basis. And this is why I was telling Mike from Unknown Paranormal, it's hard for me to have friends, especially best friends, and not tell them what I do. Because they're going to ask, Isaac, what do you do for fun? Isaac, and they see my hand reach out and grabs, and like, what the hell are you just doing? I have to go through the whole story and explain everything like that. And if to someone who doesn't believe into the paranormal as any of us do, they're going to be like, you're nuts, you're crazy, you know what you're talking about. And then I start, like, of course, Mike G would say, like, he'll start giving a reading, and the guy goes, how do you know all this shit? And then now you're known as a psychic guy. Because I know a few people I'll talk to at work about what I can do. And of course, I blew some minds from what I pulled from their head, and it's a relation to something that they went through. And they're like, "Oh shit, he knows something." Oh crap, like you actually prove yourself to them. But yeah, it's not a normal conversation I have with people that, hey, I pull demons from fourth dimensional space and put them into a ring they can't escape from. Like what the fuck? It's not something that is a commonplace conversation. But I think that's why most people in the paranormal, especially those with abilities, find communing with normal people very difficult to, because we have to explain ourselves, and that's why we mostly, I guess, we associate with those who are also like-minded in the paranormal stuff like that. So dealing with it on a normal basis is I'll say time consuming, becomes a real pain in the butt, especially since this is the world we live in now. And a lot of us either kind of throw it away. A lot of psychic mediums, don't want to be that anymore because they don't want to be a weird person. They don't want to be that person that, you see things and stuff like that. So they kind of just ignore it. And I can't, well, of course, all of us here can't ignore everything we've experienced and seen. We've gone too far now, so we have to be part of it. And it's just picking and choosing your moments and the people you discuss certain things with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got another question. So this is talking about the intelligence of entities. To what extent do you believe spiritual entities, good and bad, possess intelligence and consciousness? And how does this influence their interactions with humans?
I think they know a lot more than what a lot of people anticipate. I mean, we started our paranormal team, and, to admit, one of the first people that we've ever watched live, one of the first people that we went under the wing to learn, to understand, and get a vision on what we're into was watching Mike G. And he keeps his communication.
Went wrong
after that. The way he investigates is they're very basic, very quick questions. But the responses he gets is just like having a regular conversations with you or I. They're quick, they're to the point, and they're understandable. Can you touch that device? The device goes off. Can you tell me the name? You'll get a name. Can you tell me my name, even though I haven't shared you my name? And Mike's name would come through a spirit box.
That was today.
The communication levels that these spirits or entities have, they're intelligent in my eyes, right? They can answer questions. They can move objects. They're there. I think it's just the point of when they're ready to show.
But do you think, this is like a counteracted question, I guess, but do you think having abilities compared to not in doing this acts as a benefit? Like,
No.
Do you think, no?
I think it hinders it. So I've noticed over the last 6 months, since I've been more stronger with angels, they hide themselves from me. So I have to work really hard now. Like, they almost shield themselves because they don't want to be found out. So that means I have to work harder and almost lower my guard to get them to feel comfortable, because they're like, if I come in and show myself, he's going to get rid of me. Whereas when you start at the beginning as a paranormal investigator, you're all full of that fear and like joy of being there and hoping you're going to get something. So they're like, right, come on then, let's do it. Whereas I think if you're more exposed to it, you struggle more, I think.
Not me at all. To answer that question in detail, they are intelligent, especially the ones who were never human. Demonic entities and other entities that were never born in existence, they only know darkness, energy born of that place, whether you want to call it hell or fifth dimensional, fourth dimensional spaces of negative energy where it comes from. But they have intelligence, and the higher the rank, the more intelligence they have. My ability allows me to communicate with them. If I didn't have my ability, I would never know their intentions, never know why they're there, and never know their real reasons, even see what they actually look like. My abilities allowed me to see and know everything about them, of how they act and how they interact. And like I said, their main focus, it seems they hate humanity with a passion. That reason is still unclear. There's different people have different theories, but I know the one thing for sure is that they love feeding on negative emotions. Humans' emotions are a powerful thing. With the emotions that we admit, people feel it from each other. We feel powerful emotions. Emotions are our strongest tool to help with memory. You have a stronger emotion to something negative, positive memory-wise than you do anything else in your memory. But our negative emotion to them is a drug, so that's what they're attracted to, and that's why I know what they want. And I always find the higher the rank of the demon, granted, the less he's willing to communicate. And the lower the rank, not a lot of information, but they're willing to spill the beans more. So there's a trade-off. Like, hey, I'll take this low-level demon will if I get the information out of him, he'll give it to me. But a higher ranker won't, and the higher ranker knows more stuff. So it's a catch-22 when it comes to getting the information. But sometimes you get lucky with stuff. As for positive energies, with spirit guides and stuff like that, my spirit guides communicate and discuss with me because I built a place in my mind, of course, to do that, to communicate in meditation wise. Like Mike G was saying, meditation is necessary to, one, keep yourself sound, but two, also to communicate with a proper thing. You might get a message that you didn't think of. You might see something more clear of a problem you didn't know, and therefore you're connecting stronger with that situation with your guides. But no, my ability is the only thing I have to allow me to communicate with them, so I know why, where, when, how, all the questions anyone would ask when it comes to them. And that's why I always suspect that they're not from our dimensional space. Third dimension, you would say. They're born of like negative fourth dimension, or even possibly fifth. But I always theorize that the gods are on the fifth dimensional plane. And the higher you go, of course, the more intense these entities get. But I always suspect that demons, specifically the entity that was never born in existence, dark entity, that can be labeled as daemon, however like that. Because you have jinns, you have other entities as well. But those specifically, I think, were born from fourth dimensional space and how they communicate and what they plan to do. But it seems like they're all being led. I know one thing I've heard a lot when I interrogate some of these entities is somebody always sends them. So-and-so sent me. So-and-so sent me. And I find an awful lot that witches, dark ones, when they put a curse on someone, and the demon that is part of the curse, it becomes attached to the person, a deal is made. And I always find those demons that are going, always like say a deal was made with a curse, and the witch, set the curse on the person. Those demons' intentions of why they're after a person are very clear. Oh, I was sent by so-and-so to torment this person. And it almost feels like they're doing a job. Like they don't like it. Like we work our jobs and stuff like that. If it's, we do this, like, yeah, it makes me money, whatever, like that. That's how kind of the vibe I get from a demon when they're sent by a curse. Like, I'm here to do this, whatever, It doesn't seem they're interested. When you talk to a demon who is after a person because they want to oppress, even lead to possession, because they're feeding on their emotion, that person, they're obsessed with that person. They have more of intention. They want to be there, and they get very angry when they're torn away. So that's something I've learned when it comes to their intelligence and what they know and what they want. So specifically why they're even sent. Yeah.
Have you ever come across like a darker being or an entity asking for help?
Help? No. A lot of them are all like human entities. Those are always weird. They're always fucking angry. Every single one I met. There's a racist one I took at one of the places we investigated, Patsy Spawn. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those did this and that, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is the first time I've ever been called like racist slurs through a spirit box before, so that was blown away at that interaction. But I was like, all right, and put him in the ring, and then he was freaking out and stuff like that. He was scared. He started off angry, then he became scared. But no, a dark entity's never asked me for help because, in theory, right, this is what we've learned in theory. Now, I'm not saying this is how it is, but in theory, it's what we learned. When you die, you have a choice to where you go or a choice to stay here. And those we find that are scared of what's the word I'm looking for? Persecution? Judgment. Often stay here, whether positive or negative. And these are the positive ones we find, those ones asking for help because they maybe need forgiveness in themselves before they cross over, and those are the spirits we have cross. But negative ones, they know they messed up. They know they did something wrong. They know all that stuff, and like I don't want to, because they fear hell. They fear what judgment or punishment's coming their way, and they live in their life. So they stay here, and they still do and live in that negative emotion. And I find that the longer a human entity stays and be consumed by negative energy, they lose their humanity, and they become just a shadow of what they were, a silhouette. And so you get shadow figures. That's my theory of what the shadow figures are. People say a whole different thing. But I notice that humans, especially negative ones, when they just stay in negative energy, they lose what makes them human. They lose all that, and they become just basically a shadow figure. The longer they envelop it, some are just angry and egotistical, and they kind of want to stay behind. But when it comes to human entities, that's what's seeing them. But no, I've never had one ever ask me for help.
It's fair.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say really quick, going back on meditation and why it's important and stuff like that. For me personally, meditation is like a spiritual or subconscious brain dump. If I'm doing things like everyday things and I don't really have the mental space to kind of get a bunch of messages or have the clear mind where I can get a bunch of messages, meditating for me kind of gives me the space where I can allow messages to come through and kind of brain dump my own messages that I'm picking up. So I just wanted to add that in because I think it's important. Meditation is important.
I tell everyone who's going to get in contact with your spirit guides.
Okay, so next question. We kind of touched on this a little bit throughout the episode, but what are the motivations and purposes of spiritual entities, both good and malevolent?
I mean, I think malevolent ones are there just to piss us off.
Yeah.
They just like causing chaos, and I also find that they don't like the good spirits coming through either. So they kind of act like almost like a barrier to stopping good spirits coming through. But yeah, I just think they like chaos. I mean, I've had some really good ones, but I think malevolent spirits are just there to cause havoc, confusion. I think the biggest thing for me, and I've learned it over the last 6 months, I would say, is I find it harder. So obviously in my cabin, I've got malevolent spirits and good spirits, but they definitely like annoying the good ones. And it gets me frustrated when I'm sat there trying to communicate, and I have to work harder to try and get the nicer ones to talk. I don't know if anybody else comes across that, but that's definitely something I've struggled with over the last 6 months.
I could definitely. I second that. I've watched you perform. I've watched you do what we all do, and you could see it, right? You can start off and talk to a spirit, and everything is going well until that one bastard wants to show up, and just like you said, it's like they put up a wall, and it's either you hear me or you don't. And that's the line that we decide on. Do we cross that line to see what we get to antagonize, or do we hold back to see if it dissipates to allow who I was once talking to can come forward?
I mean, we've experienced that in the field as well, right? Like having a decent conversation, then all of a sudden, oh, he won't let me talk.
Yeah.
Wait, we won't let you talk, right? Like
we were down in. We were out in Fort Langley Cemetery one night. It's about half an hour away from us. And there's a story there. It's a husband and wife. The husband's a Native American. The wife is a white woman. But they're buried across the cemetery. Their headstones actually are angled so that they look at each other. So we were there one night trying to find the evidence that the Native man is walking the cemetery looking for his wife. These are the claims. We found ourselves investigating inside like a horseshoe-shaped bush area. There was a single headstone in there. And while we were communicating, which was going really well, Christie was then finding herself in a communication with a man who was angry, very angry, deep voice, did not want us there. And what we were finding was not only was he there, you could hear the footsteps of him walking,
He was like circling us.
yeah, you can hear the leaves crunch. You can just feel that person walk by you, around you, and at one time it'd even start laughing. So I mean, when that block came up and he came forward, that's who we were talking to until we were like, okay, we got to go back on track and go find this other guy that we were talking to that's a lot more nicer, a lot more calmer, and seeing where we can find him again. So I definitely, yeah, I definitely agree that when something dark wants to show up and a block comes up, it's there and it's strong.
Yeah. I
That's
agree.
been our
It's been hard, isn't it? Like, there's been a few times where I've even asked, like, are you trying to block me? Are you shielding yourself? And they've gone, yeah.
Oh yeah, they're not scared to tell us, and the ideas on what pops in mind, like if you allow this person to keep going and you allow that connection to happen, what will actually happen? What is their power, right? Just to play with gadgets and trinkets and being able to talk to you through a spirit box or an app, that's just the sum of very little of what these entities can really do. Now we've learned, and I know Mike, you've been through it too. We've brought things home and we've dealt with things. In our case, it went after my son. Isaac helped us with that, right? But I mean, you've dealt with demons caused by trauma. We're dealing with stuff out on the field that we're bringing home. That it's like when you relook back at the evidence, it's like
it does warn you though. Oftentimes, like I'm coming with you, and you don't process it in the moment until you're like,
Yeah,
oh, wait.
the better ones are run, get out. I'm coming home. Oh, great. Here we go.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people too don't take that serious, right? Like when they're doing it and they hear those, it's like, haha, until like
You wake up and there's a man at the bottom of your bed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'll still never forget that time Megan and Isaac helped me with that demon I had in my cabin. Never ever. That's coming to the grave with me, I tell you. That was awful.
The process of getting rid of dark entities so positive energies can talk is kind of our MO. It's our whole purpose of what we do and investigate, how we investigate. We're not there to collect evidence. We're not there to prove something's there. We know something's there. Our abilities tell us, hey, something's here. We can know if a place is haunted or not by just walking into it. So it's more of that we're here to help the spirits and stuff like that. So, like I said, we have told countless people, our entire goal of our investigation is to go to a location, get rid of all the dark entities possible, and help cross over as much positive spirits as they want. If they want to leave it, they don't want to leave it. It's all up to them. So communicating, yeah, we ran into it a lot. A lot of entities being told to shut up, don't talk, don't look over there, don't go over there. And as soon as I get that asshole out of the room or out of the place, all of a sudden all these other spirits start coming up and start talking to us. And they like, spirit box goes crazy. And all these people want to say they need help and they need help crossing over. I want to leave. Because I got rid of the source of what was keeping them there. And that's what I found out. A lot of dark entities will like almost bully other entities to stay in a location to feed off the fear or feed off them. Or because if people go there, they get scared. They get, oh, it's a ghost here, and they get scared and they leave. Almost trying to keep the place haunted. So people, one, will go investigate. And two, because if people go to move there, they get scared and they feed off that fear. So you have like negative human entities feeding off the fear of course, people and stuff like that. So getting rid of that dark entities and clearing the space out and helping the positive spirits is kind of the whole reason we do what we do.
I think the thing that I've also found out is that normal spirits also don't like angelic energy either. So if I've got so if I've got my angels with me, they won't talk. Like the spirits within the cabin will not talk. It's like it's like the angels intimidate them. A bit like what dark energies do, but the angelic energy also intimidates them too.
Well, if I saw the accurate biblical described angel, I think I'd be a little intimidated as well.
Yeah, that's true. The thing where people talk about like 6 foot, 7 foot humanoids with wings isn't actually the correct depiction of an angel.
or that wing thing with all those thousand eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Cathedral. Yeah.
yeah,
I've got a question then.
yeah.
So, do you think it's harder to get rid of spirit? Like, so I talk about trauma demons and all that kind of stuff. But if you had your own, do you think you could get rid of it yourself, or would you need to get somebody else to do it for you? Because I had a
Uh,
personal experience with that.
I have learned. And it's something I haven't talked about on the podcast yet. I was thinking about saving it for Shadow Walker Part 7, but it's a small detail thing, so it's not really that big. It's one of like the additions of my ability. But it seems when I pull that negative energy out of someone's mind force that's attached to them, right? And it's almost like it's gone. They have almost a placebo effect. They get something leaves them, right? Something I've been doing for the last year or so. Anytime I have high points of anxiety or immense anger, or I'm sad for some reason, and in a moment or situation that I don't want to deal with it or I can't, I can reach into my chest, find that energy, or at least pull it into an energy and pull it out of myself, and of course throw it into the ring. And then that emotion is almost dropped down from 100% down to almost 20. Like
Mhm.
it's still kind of there, like I know it's there, but then it starts dissipating faster. And then I can almost do that with my mind. If there's a bad memory from my past that I really don't want anymore, or I want to get rid of, essentially, I can almost reach in, find it, pull energy around it, and pull it out and throw it away. Granted, the essence of the memory is still there, but the emotion attached to it is gone. And that's what I started learning about memories and emotions and how our emotions attach to memories. So if you take away the emotion to the memory, it's still kind of there, but it will fade away faster, especially negative ones in your past. The lesson behind the memory has been learned. I'm already established myself. So I don't need it anymore. I've learned the lesson from what happened. I don't want the negative emotion attached to the memory anymore, so that's why I get rid of it. So dealing with your own trauma and stuff like that is something that I've learned to remove from myself. And other people have different other ways they do it, relieving it and getting over it and doing their shadow work, as people say. And that might be my own form of shadow work, what I do, since I am the shadow walker. Um, to pull that negative energy from myself to remove it. And I've actually done it to Megan a couple of times. I pull that from her. I pull negative emotions, negative memories out of her head and stuff like that. So it's something that I've been practicing with, and it might be attached to the shaman side of my ability. I don't know, but getting rid of it, like in that sense of mind, is something that I've been doing because I need to be clear-minded. I need to be, focused in what I'm doing and stuff like that because many people are counting on me to be exactly who I am, to take down what I am. So I have to be that person. So I think that's maybe an addition to my ability to allow me to remove negative emotions. I don't dwell on them, I guess, or I don't focus. I don't let them fester. It's almost like clearing out my own mind force, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
I feel like you need some willpower though. Like it's all about
Yes.
the attachment, almost like if you had an addiction in a sense. You need that willpower to let go of that. Same kind of idea with something that may be attached to you. You would need that willpower to get rid of it yourself.
I think it depends on the type. Like the problem and the thing that I see the most is that this thing, I'm going to call it a trauma demon in inverted commas at this point, but it knows so much about you because you've created it. Do you know what I mean? So it knows every single thing about you, and it makes it really hard for you to have a mindset to go, I'm just going to let you go now, because it will use everything against you.
The way that I'm dictating trauma demons is kind of just to add on to what everyone's input is, but a trauma demon to me is, so if you're battling depression, anxiety, stuff like that, and it's really beating you up, you get to a point where you're actually causing this to come forward. This is now something that is in front of you in the real life, in the 3D.
Exactly.
You could see this. Now, I haven't experienced that myself, but I know me, you, and Christie tried to help someone way back in the day with a type of trauma demon. That was Courtney. Now, the only way to see a change was to ensure that this person was in a higher vibration all the time.
Correct.
You know what I mean? As soon as that person started dropping down vibrations and finding themselves getting defeated, the more this demon would come forward and want to react. And I mean, if it's something personal, my opinion would being is, okay, I've brought this to life. I can see it, I can feel it, I know it's here. How do I better it? And once you start bettering yourself, my vision would be that demon would start shrinking until it's disappeared. And once it's disappeared, it's a way of me knowing that I've done it. I've beat this thing. It is now gone. I've bettered myself. I'm feeling better. And
Yeah, I agree, but that's if you're strong-minded. The problem
Yeah.
that what they do is, sorry to jump over you there, Mike, but
No.
what they seem to do is they will, you know, you've heard the term, right? Like you see them on these videos all the time. They go, "I feel like I'm crazy,"
Yeah.
and what they're doing is you know, you'll go to somebody and say, "This is happening," and they'll, "Can you try and manifest it?" And it doesn't work, and they sit there and they start feeling like they're crazy. But you get people like me that walk into a room and you'll go, "I can see it over there." And that is the placebo, because I've actually acknowledged, been aware of what's going on, that's when they turn the switch. So the
Yep.
switch turns, and exactly what you're saying now is their mindset changes because somebody's acknowledged. And it was the same where Megan helped me. I was feeling exactly like that. I was like, this is happening. I feel this. I smell this. I can feel them pushing me. That, like, the atmosphere was awful. And Megan was able to. I'd never told Megan what was I was feeling, but Megan was like, "This is happening. This is happening. This is happening." And then I think, in fact, I think I was on the phone to Megan or Isaac maybe. And while I was on the phone to, no, actually, I was speaking to you, Mike. And then you messaged Megan, and Megan stepped in. And while I was talking to you, I literally said to you, "I've just felt it move."
That's right. Yeah.
And yeah. So it's that placebo effect happens when somebody understands or somebody hears you, and that's when you then start fixing it yourself because
And
like somebody believes you.
and that's where I would, that's where realization kicks in though, is even though I was talking to you and getting help outside the conversation, and when the helps comes forward to help you and is relating to feeling and smell and being able to describe exactly what's happening to you or what you're dealing with without any sorts of information, I think to me that's where realization would kick in and be like, I'm not losing my mind here. I'm
Yeah.
on the right track, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, like it's just wild.
We live in a world where we are so easily, like, our mind is so powerful, and that's what a trauma demon is. It's about, you can manifest you have the ability to make things happen, and that's what I go to, is that this person has actually manifested, you know, a dark shadow or something that's crawling up the walls and stuff like that. It's when you then go and help by saying this is happening, they then change it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Something that I always tell people in the home cases after, and Mike's been there because unknown Mike has been the best cheerleader. I won't say cheerleader, hype man that I've ever had when it comes to
Best wingman.
there you go. When it comes to explaining and stuff like that, but I know he does it a lot, and I do it in my own home cases that me and Megan have done. But after I clear everything out, I basically tell them, look, I removed everything for you. You're set. Your mind's cleared. Now you have to do your best to not do this over again, not invite it. Like, I just cleaned your house. Don't mess it up, right?
Yeah.
Don't mess it up again. It's fine. It's clean. Or don't do anything around. Yeah, don't mess it up. And that's why I find with people who aren't repeat customers, essentially, or aren't repeat people, is that they have that positive attitude when it comes to, oh, everything's good now. Everything's cleared out. Now I can do everything like that. We've seen several cases of people coming out of very positive and stuff like that. And their whole entire mindset changed. Dal being one of them, one of her cases. Her entire focus towards spirituality is far more involved than it was before she met me. So we do have positive outcomes, but something I always tell everyone is to basically start building that willpower to prevent this happening again. Those with the strongest will aren't the ones that are always affected. I rarely ever meet anyone who's very strong-willed as being oppressed. Their strong will usually fights things off and stuff like that. So, and most demons don't go for anyone who's strong-willed to begin with. It's too hard unless they're sent on purpose. But they don't. It doesn't appetize them. So I always try to get people a positive outlook afterwards. Like, hey, it's all fixed. You're good. Now follow this process and do your best to try to prevent this again from whatever reason it has. But most of the time, people won't see something like that again. And I always feel bad, but I feel disappointed when a person that I just helped, weeks later has something again because they're inviting it in because they want it back for whatever reason. Granted, out of all those 45 cases, I think I've had 2 of those situations, so not everyone's doing it. But I usually try to help someone to have a more positive outlook to the spiritual world after helping them out to help create that stability in their mind when it comes to supernatural. Right, G?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Mhm.
I was looking at Mike G's face. I was like, what is he? He's thinking something?
Megan, are you getting affected on your left side by any chance?
I keep feeling somebody touching.
Yeah,
So.
okay, good. Not as good as it's happening, but yeah. Okay.
Back off. We're going to pull you in another dimension.
No, I think it's great for, like, even when we don't expect when we get a call for whether it's a private case and whatnot, I will drop everything if I know a child is being affected. That Christie can vouch for me, right? And when you take on a case like that, and you watch a religion.
Sorry.
Pardon?
Did anybody else just hear that female voice then, or was that Christie?
She didn't say anything.
You might have to listen back to that on the podcast.
I heard something too. It sounded like a car passing to me, but like
No, it sounded like a female.
Yeah, it was
Like yeah. It was like tag that.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. You fair enough.
But no, when you go into a case,
Is that what you're hearing? What is it?
that's our neighbor.
No, this was unless your neighbour's screaming.
No.
No, it was definitely a female because I thought it was you, Christy, to be honest.
No.
When you can go into a case with someone being oppressed and being part of this battle, and you've accomplished so much that you watch a religion change belief. Like we like Dow, for instance. I'm not saying she changed her whole belief system, but after helping her, she's been on a spiritual path now that is never been her, and she openly admits that. Right? She wants to learn about EMA. She wants to know what path of the road should she follow, and she's understanding that there's more to life than just a certain religion. Now, everything might fall down into the same track of being a one being, but where she leads herself is she wants to be on our level. And that's something that has never crossed her mind ever, right? She's just go to work and come home. She's a mother full time. She's got a husband, right? Kids. And now it just skyrocketed. And I mean, it can be all part of the spiritual battle and finding the right troops or who's coming forward. Somewhere down the line, we're all going to play a major role. And we all might meet at one time to take on that role, to take on that fight. And the people that follow to come with us, essentially to me, that's going to be the army to go with it.
Now, this will probably be the hardest question to answer. And I've already voiced my opinion on it many times in the other podcasts. But essentially, always the question that even led to this whole discussion in the first place is why? Why are people, humans, involved in battling dark entities and demons? Why do I have my ability? Why does Mike G have his? Why does even Unknown Mike and Christie have their talents as well when it comes to dealing with what we deal with? The big question I always try to figure out when I started this whole war of mine is why? Not why me. I know why me now, but essentially, why do I have this ability to do what I do? If, and this is I always say the hardest part for most people to wrap their head around, if, as we are told, the gods, angels, positive entities are doing this fighting for us on the other side, the big question is then why are we even involved? Why are we doing what we do? And I always had come to the conclusion is that they can't help us here in third dimensional space. Hence why we have our abilities. There, I'm not saying they don't exist or anything like that. I'm just saying that the power level, what people suspect they are, isn't as involved in this third dimensional space as we all think it does. Miracles happen, yes, but do they happen the way that we think they did? We of course have spirits that come and help us, but as of the war we're fighting, I have taken out more demons, imprisoned more entities than any other faith and religion of spiritual warfare that anyone else has done ever. Well, besides King Solomon, but he kind of second place to what I've been doing so far. And that's not the ego brag or anything like that. It's just a matter of fact of what I've been doing. Hence, I always ask the question is, if we are fighting this war, if we are the ones involved, then what is the purpose of higher dimensional beings as gods and stuff like that? And I always come to the conclusion is that they are guides. They influence us, they guide us, they give us lessons, they teach us. We learn from them, we learn from everything like that in the sense of how it works. But as of the actual fighting part, here in this third dimensional space that we are living in now, they aren't involved. I'm not saying they're not helping us. I'm saying they're not involved. But that is the conclusion I came up with. And I wonder what you two's perspective is on the why humanity is actually in this war.
I think my honest answer would be is because we've done it before, right? There's a reason why. Now, my ability has come later in life, within 2 years? But the more you dive into it, the more I think about it, the more that I experience it, it becomes too natural. I don't walk around with fear. I don't walk around looking over my shoulder. I never had to do that because I think I've taken a place in the past, right? Like I know deep down inside, Mike's got a real tight bond with
I wonder where you were going to go,
right?
then.
With like the Knights Templars and stuff like that. These were all people of battle. Mike is now in this life battling. I believe it's because he's done it before. I've done it before. Christie has lived a life that she's been part of battles. It may not have been a spiritual battle, but she was once a warrior. We're too used to this, that we're finding our place from a past to the present. Later on in life, yes, that's very possible. But I truly stand by the fact that this is not our first time.
I think for me, I think we all have our own gift, and I think everybody's is different. And I believe that mine is to, we're going through so much shit at the moment in this world that mine is more about focusing on love and recognizing actually love is the biggest power that we have vibrationally. And I know that really does sound hippy dippy, right? And I get it. But when you focus on that, the energy that you put out, the vibrational energy that you put out is massive. And you attract better things in life. And I think that the way that I agree with Mike, I think that we've done this before. However, I think you get to a stage within your vibrational change that you can have the ability to come back and guide people how to do it. And I think that's what I'm here for. I believe that I'm here to help guide people how to focus on changing your vibration. And the reason I do what I do with dark energy and all that kind of stuff is to almost recalibrate or realign people and the way that they see things. Because like with you, Isaac, a lot of people, when I go to do it, they'll phone me a couple of days later and talk about how much their vibration or their energy has changed because it's almost like you just wipe the slate clean and then they just restart.
It was all great answers, but the perspective I wanted to get is, why do you think humanity is fighting this war? Why us specifically? Why down here? Granted, I'm not saying us per se, but humans themselves. They're psychic, they're mediums, there are priests, there are shamans, there are different people in different forms of spirituality that are all combating evil. But we're being consistently told that the gods are the one doing this, that angels are fighting for us and stuff like that, or higher dimensional demigods and stuff like that, or in different faiths and different religions, whatever you essentially believe. They're doing this for us. They're fighting this battle. They're protecting us. But as experience has shown, that's not the case. And that's why I always ponder the thought of, like, why us specifically are fighting this war. Hence why I came to the conclusion that they can't help us here. But if you don't, I guess, disagree with that or anything like that, but
I think we're doing foundational work. I think what we're doing is, yes, we're not seeing the gods and stuff intervening. I think a lot of this is to do with we're doing foundational work, getting ready for that to happen.
Mm.
So the journey that you're doing and the journey that I'm doing and Mike and Christie is all about instilling the gifts that we have now to the next generation, and the generations after that will be to do with helping us prepare for that.
I always wondered it because, like, I'm doing all this fighting, I'm taking care of all this stuff, and yet any help I get from gods is a simple, yeah, hey, thanks, and attaboy, and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, are you gonna help me down here and like that? And of course, I've talked about different experiences with other higher entities and stuff like that. But it's just that odd question I ask myself in my head. If I'm doing this, what is the importance of the gods then? If I'm the one actually doing the work,
I think it's because they can't enter this physical form. So you're doing it because they can't get here.
That's the conclusion I came with. Is that okay? We are the tools and the weapons of this war.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, we're the ones actually to fight, because anyway, like that. But that was just an interesting thought. I was pondering for the longest time now, and hearing different perspectives is always interesting.
Do you feel like your gift sometimes is a curse?
No, and
Never?
it's strange. Most people are like, well, I've come to peace with it, even when it first started happening, because even when I was a child, I knew I was meant for something big. Like, I always had that thought in the back of my head. I meant to do something big. I meant to do that. And when I was young, of course, I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and then, of course, to be a musician. So I thought, hey, I was involved in that. I thought I'd go down as like one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, or like a famous musician, or something like that. And I was like, okay, that's what I guess I'm doing big. But no, what I'm doing now, that's what's going to be the big thing. That's what I was supposed to do. So, like I said, I always known if I was destined for something big. I just didn't think it would be this. I didn't even think this could even exist. This is more of a superpower. It's associated in comic books than actual reality. But again, what Mike G does, what he does, performing his things, pushing positive energy out from his hands and removing dark energy that way, that stuff is, holy crap, one thing. And even Unknown Mike, his internal compass, able to pinpoint and find something. These are abilities that are beyond what normal people even conjured in their own head of what could be possible. So humanity itself, when we involve ourselves in this spiritual war, we seem to evolve with spiritual abilities to help protect us. Like, whether it be mine, yours, or of course Mike G's, or even the psychic mediums like Christie and Megan, you're able to connect to the other side. You guys have cheat codes. We all do when playing this game of life and in dealing with what we're doing. Of course, some of us are destined for bigger things, but it doesn't mean anyone who doesn't have ability like mine is lesser in any combat. We're all important in this war. We all play our roles. And I think that's, in my opinion, the whole reason why humanity has evolved in the spiritual warfare is to combat evil, to lay a foundation for good, to even connect to the other side.
Well, I think too, when you talk about abilities, like, yours is very physical.
Yeah.
And yours, you don't really feel the emotions of things.
No.
And I think it sometimes can be looked at as a curse with people with psychic abilities, because I know when I first started, I would channel like when you would remove the dark energy and the people were able to cross, you saw it would manifest me crying.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes it's a lot to handle, especially if you got your own stuff kind of you're working through, or it's the beginning stages or stuff like that. And some of the things, because I personally, with my abilities, I can literally take on what a person felt, or like a specific, like how they died. And sometimes that is a lot, especially if you got like multiple spirits trying to,
So you're a spiritual empath.
yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
why I don't, that's why I don't do mediumship readings anymore.
yeah.
Because I'm that, and I no, I feel. So if I was doing a reading for you, I'd feel your emotions, and then I would feel the spirit's emotions, and I would just sit there and like bawl my eyes out. I've done it many times on lives, because
Yeah.
I can actually feel it.
Yeah, it's a lot, because
Awful.
it's and I think that's why too, like it's so easy for me when I go into the SS method and do like that trance kind of I don't even know what you would call it, like kind of like a meditation trance thing where I allow the spirits to come through, and they can almost speak like through me, but there's still that barrier where like they can't take over my body kind of thing.
Hmm.
But they can like channel through me and speak through me. And I think because at the very early stages, granted that doesn't happen, the like taking on, I'm able to put like blocks and boundaries up, more so now at locations. But before, I would literally, like, if a person was like in extreme dread, I would take that on. And it's a lot when it's multiple spirits, at a location. And I think sometimes that's a curse too, because like it's not really a curse. I would just say like the downside to having abilities that you side note that you have to deal with. Kind
Has
of the
anybody
less.
got? Sorry, I'm really sorry. Has anybody got a kid with them?
I
Okay,
mean, our son's over there.
Tag this. Go back about 10, 20 seconds. There was a kid laughing.
We know Killian's laugh. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
You
Well,
you
he's
hear a
like
lot
on
of
the
clapping
other
too.
side of the house, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that can be a lot. And too, like I know, like when I first started, when I would start having so much emotion come through, I would actually physically feel it in my body, like it would cause ailments, kind of. And then too, it's hard when you're out and about, like at a grocery store, and you feel everybody's emotions. It can be a lot. So that's kind of like the downside, I guess you could say, of being able to pick up on everything and being a psychic in that way.
Yeah, definitely has its drawbacks. If you had many, Christie.
Have I had many?
Yeah, drawbacks like things that have kind of made you look at it as a curse rather than a blessing.
Not really. I mean, I get what Megan is saying, like, especially out doing investigating, having that feeling of someone else project on you.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks. But I've been lucky enough to be able to, tell back off. I don't want to feel this way. And, if you want to have a conversation with me, I'm not going to put up with, feeling your emotions. And I've been lucky enough to have people back up and continue a conversation with me without making me feel anxious or sad or anything like that. So,
Well, I appreciate everybody coming on. I think I'll wrap it up here. Mike G, where can everybody find you?
On TikTok and Instagram, you can just look up Mike's Angel Guidance on both, and it comes up there. That's it.
Unknown Mike, where everybody can find you guys?
You can find us on Instagram at the Unknown Paranormal, and you can follow the team page on TikTok as well if you're into that at the Unknown Paranormal BC.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everybody coming on.
Welcome. Thanks.
Thank you for
me.
having us. This was great.
And we might do it again, maybe with some extra people.
Mm-hmm.
But as always, guys, you can catch our socials at Hidden the Shadows Podcast on Instagram. Hidden the Shadows Podcast2 on TikTok. Our links to all of social media, always listen to it at hiddenshadowspodcast.com. And as always, we'll catch your widows in the next one.
Yes.